The only light in the room was a small kerosene lamp, and I remember staring at the flame because I didn't know where else to look. My wedding dress was folded over a chair. Downstairs, I could still hear dishes clinking and my father's deep laugh coming up through the floor. And beside me, on a bed he had built with his own hands, sat my husband, and we were both pretending we understood what marriage meant. Before I go any further, I'm Hannah, and this is Hannah, the Amish girl. I grew up Old Order Amish in Lancaster County, and now I share the stories we were never allowed to say out loud. If you value hearing the truth about Amish life from someone who actually lived it, subscribe and like this video and tell me in the comments, what do you think an Amish wedding night looks like? I was 17 when I got married. In my community, that wasn't surprising. It was normal. School ends at 8th grade. At 14, your textbooks close forever. After that, your education is practical. Cooking for frolics, sewing plain dresses, taking care of younger siblings, helping in the barn. By 16, you're going to Sunday night singings with the youth group. That's where courtship quietly begins. Here's what people outside the community don't understand. Amish life moves fast because it is meant to. The Ordnung, our unwritten but strict set of rules, shapes everything. Dating isn't casual. You don't just see where things go. A boy starts giving you buggy rides home from singings. He begins visiting on Sunday evenings. Within months, everyone expects you to get engaged. My courtship lasted less than half a year. We practiced bundling, lying together on top of my quilt. Fully clothed in my childhood bedroom, the door slightly open, my sisters whispering in the next room, his arm around me, careful but firm. We talked for hours in Pennsylvania Dutch about the house we would build, the cows we would buy, how many children God might give us. Sometimes he kissed me softly at first. The first time his hand stayed at my waist, I froze. Not because I didn't care about him, but because I didn't know what was allowed. Nobody ever explained the line between innocence and sin. You were expected to feel it, and that's the part that still unsettles me. We were expected to understand desire with no guidance. By the time our wedding was announced in church, I felt both chosen and trapped. Chosen because he had picked me. Trapped because once you're baptized, and I was, there is no going back without shunning and losing your family. Amish weddings are held in late fall after harvest. Ours was on a Thursday. I woke up at 4 in the morning to start cooking. By midday, nearly 300 people filled my parents' house and barn. The ceremony lasted for hours. The bishop preached about yielding, about wives obeying, about building a godly home. I remember thinking, I can bake pies for days, I can milk cows in the dark, but I have no idea what is going to happen tonight. After the meal, roast chicken, mashed potatoes, gravy thick like paste, shoe fly pie sweet on my tongue. Guests stayed longer. The house smelled like coffee and wood smoke. My cheeks hurt from smiling. And then quietly, we went upstairs. Let me be completely honest with you. I was exhausted. My body hurt from standing all day. But when the bedroom door closed, that tired feeling changed into something sharper. Fear, curiosity, a strange sadness for the girlhood that had just ended. The room was simple. A wooden bed, a handmade quilt sewn by my aunts, a wash basin with cool water, no mirror, no lock on the door. I could hear boots moving downstairs. Someone laughed. A chair scraped. Privacy in an Amish house is very fragile. He loosened his suspenders and placed them on the chair. My hands shook as I took off my prayer cap. It fell onto the nightstand like a small white surrender flag. We stood facing each other in that dim light. Two teenagers dressed like adults. I don't really know what I'm doing, he whispered. That confession opened something inside me, because neither did I. We lay down under the quilt, still in our long cotton nightclothes. The bed creaked loudly, and we both went stiff, then laughed in nervous relief. My mouth was dry, my heart was beating so loudly I was sure he could hear it. When he reached for me in the darkness, his hand was shaking. Mine was too. What happened next was not the perfect romance people imagine. It was slow and unsure. There was discomfort I had not been warned about, moments when I wanted to ask questions but didn't have the words. When I gasped, he stopped and whispered, "Are you all right?" As if we were both afraid of breaking something special. It was brief, awkward, gentle in its own fragile way. Afterward, the room became very quiet. I stared at the ceiling, watching shadows move from the lamp. I felt different, not suddenly changed into a woman, just aware that something had changed. He turned onto his side and pulled me close, his face against my hair. I could feel his breathing slow down. "We'll figure this out," he said again, softer this time, and for a moment, wrapped in that heavy quilt, listening to the horses moving in the barn outside, I believed him. But here's what nobody tells you. The next morning, I woke up before dawn and put on my apron. There were cows to milk, dishes to wash, guests finishing leftovers. No one asked how the night had gone. No one ever would. In Amish culture, intimacy is private to the point of silence. It exists for having children. Pleasure is rarely talked about, especially for women. In more conservative groups like the Schwarzentruber, modesty rules are even stricter. In New Order communities, there may be a little more openness, but in my Old Order church district, the expectation was simple. A wife obeys, a husband leads. Emotional maturity was expected the moment vows were spoken. My friend Mary married at 18. Years later, she admitted she spent her first months feeling confused and ashamed because she didn't feel happy right away. She thought something was wrong with her faith. We whispered about it in her pantry while kneading bread, making sure no one heard us. That's when I started to understand something deeper. Early marriage in the Amish world creates the feeling of being an adult. You are given big responsibilities, cooking for hundreds, running a home, having children, but not always the emotional understanding to handle intimacy. And yet, I don't look back at that night with anger. We were young, we didn't know much, but we were also kind to each other. There were nights later when intimacy felt like a routine, always in darkness, always quiet. But there were also nights when he held me afterward and we talked honestly about fear, about money, about whether we were good enough. Looking back now, I can see both sides. The system rushed us. The silence failed us. But inside that system were two young people trying to love the best way we knew how. When I left at 22, the cost was immediate. Shunning. Phone calls not answered. Letters sent back. My parents' door closed to me. In therapy, I learned words I had never heard spoken out loud. Autonomy, boundaries, consent. I learned that understanding your body doesn't make you sinful. It makes you informed. I grieve for the girl who lay under that quilt at 17 trying to be brave. They told us marriage made us adults, but adulthood isn't just vows and chores and sharing a bed. It is understanding yourself before you give yourself away. The Amish world gave me faith, discipline, and a community that showed up for every frolic and funeral, but it also gave me lifelong commitments before I had fully grown into who I was. If you grew up in a place where obedience was confused with readiness, I see you. If you were told you were mature just because you could handle responsibility, you are not alone. I wasn't too young to cook for 300 people. I was too young to understand love. If this story moved you, tell me what part stayed with you. And if you want more honest stories from behind the prayer cap, subscribe. There is still so much I haven't said.